Hey guys, today we'll be covering a 2022 drama film called Dear Zoe. The opening scene begins with a girl named Tess who is rushing towards the hospital with her mother and stepfather. It turns out that Tess's younger sister Zoe has been in an accident and is being treated in the hospital's emergency room. Unfortunately, Zoe dies as a result of her serious injuries, leaving Tess and her family heartbroken. Tess then starts blaming herself for her sister's death because she believes that she could have saved her. It is then revealed that Zoe died on the same date in which the World Trade Center was attacked, September 11th. After Zoe's death, Tess keeps thinking about how the situation would have been different if she had done things differently that day. She keeps recalling the moments that she spent with her sister and wonders how the tragedy could have been avoided. Tess appears to have a good relationship with both her stepfather and her half-sister Emily Gladstone. One day, Tess and her family attend a therapy session, but she doesn't seem convinced by the doctor, who suggests she write down her feelings in a notebook. Months pass, but Tess and her family are still unable to recover from the tragedy. One day, Tess notices Emily drawing Santa Claus, so she thinks of celebrating the upcoming Christmas, but neither her mother nor her stepfather are ready to do so. In the next scene, we learn that Tess has a crush on Justin, who works in a grocery store. One evening, she goes to the store to get his attention, but soon discovers that her mother is having an affair with him, which enrages Tess. As a result, she confronts and argues with her mother. This worsens Tess's depression, so she packs her belongings and abandons her suburban house in the middle of the night. She boards a bus and then heads towards her biological father, Nick's place. Upon reaching there, her father invites her inside and shows her the room where she used to stay in the past. Tess is overjoyed to see that her father has neatly organized her old dolls and other toys. Elsewhere, Tess's mother Ellie panics after learning that Tess has left the house. She immediately calls her daughter, but Tess rejects the call. Following this, Ellie calls Nick's landline and discovers that their daughter is with him. A short while later, Ellie and her current husband named David arrive at Nick's place to take back their daughter. Nick tries to stop them, but David reminds him that Ellie is Tess's custodial parent. Regardless, Nick somehow manages to calm them down and convinces them to let Tess stay there until she feels better. The next day, Tess is sitting outside the house with a pet dog when a neighbor named Jimmy approaches her. Both of them introduce themselves and begin talking. When Nick finds out about this, he forbids Tess from hanging out with Jimmy for no apparent reason. One day, Tess and Nick go to church, where the pastor brings up the September 11th incident. This agitates the teenager, so she rushes out of the church. Thankfully, Nick follows her and manages to comfort her with a hug. Later, Tess receives a phone call from her mother, who inquires as to when she will return. Tess informs her that she needs some time to clear up her head. Ellie tries to make it clear that she has nothing to do with Justin and that he is just a friend, but Tess hangs up the phone, saying that it is none of her business. On the other hand, Tess's moving out makes her younger sister Emily sad. In order to compensate, she visits Emily's school, spends time with her, and drives her home in Nick's old truck. Emily seems to enjoy Tess's company, so the latter decides to meet her every day after school. One night, Tess hears loud music coming from Jimmy's house and asks him to turn it off. He obliges, but soon after he places a ladder between their houses and enters Tess's room. Then, the two start chatting about random topics, including Jimmy's zero-gravity pendant, which was given to him by his late mom. One thing leads to another, and the two start kissing, thus initiating their relationship. Now, Tess's new routine includes meeting with Emily after school every day, making some sketches, and assisting her father with household chores. In the midst of all of it, she learns to drive in her father's old truck. She also starts to spend more time with Jimmy, who introduces her to Pot. All of these things aid in diverting Tess's attention away from the memory of her sister's death. One day, Tess is sitting outside her house when an inebriated guy named Travis approaches her. He hands her some cash and tells her it's for the drugs Nick sold him earlier. She discovers that her father is selling drugs in order to make money and cover expenses. Later, Tess confronts her father and warns him that he could end up in jail for his illegal activity. She also advises him to get an actual job. The following day, Tess and Nick drive Emily home after school, but this time, she is very sad and has tears in her eyes. When Tess inquires about the matter, she informs her that school is over and they will not be able to meet her tomorrow. Shortly after, they arrive home and David discovers Emily being driven back by Nick, which enrages him. He chastises Tess for her recent behavior and tells her to return immediately. However, Tess doesn't want to hear anything, so she asks her dad to drive away. Upon reaching home, Nick tells Tess that she should go get a job instead of staying at home. The same night, Tess shares everything with Jimmy, who agrees to help her find a job. The next day, Jimmy takes her to his best friend's lemonade stand near a local amusement park and gets her a job. From that day on, Jimmy comes to the lemonade stand every evening to pick up Tess, and the two spend a lot of time together. In the next scene, Nick meets Tess and informs her that he has finally landed a job as a chef in a local restaurant. Now that both of them are employed, they decide to throw a small party and invite their friends to celebrate. As expected, Tess invites her lover Jimmy, but this only enrages her dad. He storms towards Jimmy and orders him to get out, expressing his displeasure with their relationship. Despite this, Tess and Jimmy know that their bond is very special and refuse to let anything come between them. One night, Jimmy asks Tess to climb over to his place, to which she agrees. But this time they have a sad conversation as Jimmy shares about his past when his mother passed away. The next evening after work, Tess gathers her courage and decides to go on a slingshot ride with Jimmy. When they reach the high point, Jimmy confesses his love for her, making her happy. Following this, both of them return to Jimmy's place and start spending some romantic time together. Just then, Nick walks into his daughter's room and discovers the latter in her window. He also catches the two kissing, making him furious. He yells at Tess and orders her to return immediately. He then warns her not to see Jimmy again, but Tess tells him not to treat her like a kid because she has grown up now. In the meantime, Tess receives a phone call from her mother, who asks her when she will return. Tess tells her about her new job and also mentions that her father has been great these days. Hearing that her daughter is happy with her ex-husband, Ellie becomes upset and hangs up the phone. The next day, Tess is at work when two of her wealthy friends arrive. They immediately start gossiping and appear disgusted that their friend is selling lemonade. When she's had enough, Tess angrily confronts them by saying that they cannot dominate others just because they are wealthy. Hearing this, the arrogant girls become silent. After work, Tess returns home only to discover her father drunk on the couch. She asks why he didn't go to work, to which Nick responds that he is no longer a guy who can keep a job and support his family. In the middle of their conversation, the phone rings, and when she answers it, David on the other end informs her that Ellie is in the hospital. Scared, Tess rushes to the hospital and learns that her mother attempted to take her own life because she was overwhelmed by the grief of losing Zoe, and now Tess. Fortunately, she is safe now. Afterwards, Tess meets up with Jimmy and explains the whole situation to him. As a good boyfriend, he tries to console her. However, Tess believes that he will never understand her pain. Jimmy claims to have lost his mother as well, so he can understand, but Tess doesn't listen. Instead, she starts arguing over the fact that his mother passed away due to an illness, while her mother attempted suicide, which is two entirely different things. Hurt by her words, Jimmy stops talking to her, and the two become distant. One night, Tess is asleep when she receives a call from her father who pretends to be busy. Tess suspects something is wrong and demands the truth, and Nick finally reveals that he has been busted. He is in custody right now and doesn't know how long he'll be there. To make matters worse, Tess also discovers that Jimmy has been imprisoned along with her father for selling drugs. Left with no choice, she calls David and requests his assistance regarding her father. In the next scene, Ellie pays Tess a visit and gives her a new outfit as a 17th birthday present. Following this, the mother and daughter have a heart-to-heart conversation about Zoe's untimely death and share their grief. Ellie also admits that she did not attempt suicide and that it was an accidental overdose of her sleeping pills. Furthermore, Ellie apologizes to her and assures her that she will not abandon Tess. Hearing all this, Tess's anger melts away and the two share an emotional hug. The following day, Nick, as well as Jimmy, are released from jail. Jimmy approaches Tess and wishes her a happy birthday, presenting her with his zero-gravity pendant as a gift. Tess immediately forgives him, but shortly after, she breaks down while remembering Zoe. This time she reveals the tragic incident about her sister in detail. It's revealed that she was in the garden with Zoe when a neighbor informed her of the World Trade Center attack. As a result, she left Zoe in the garden and went inside to see the news about what was going on. A short while later, she came out and discovered that Zoe had been hit by a car. After the revelation, Jimmy comforts her, saying that it was just a terrible accident. Surprisingly, Tess starts feeling better. The heaviness in her chest is gone, and her guilt has lessened because Jimmy constantly assures her that it wasn't her fault. She is relieved that Jimmy can do what no therapist could do, help her find a breakthrough. Later in the evening, Tess decides to move back in with her mother and stepfather and be there for them. Now, she wants to tackle the existing grief and get out of it as a family. Nick is relieved to see Tess moving on, and he realizes that he too must move on and find a purpose in life. Before departing, the father and daughter share an emotional moment together, remembering Zoe. A few moments later, Emily notices Tess from the window and hurriedly runs towards her, overjoyed. Finally, Tess happily reunites with her family.